So, you want to jack it up right there? I jacked it up right on the pumpkin. Right there. Jack stand on the axle. Get your wheels off for your fucking 21mm. Beat this shit with a hammer. Yeah. So I'm gonna do a voiceover because it gets loud as fuck in the shop. Right here, just take a bunch of pictures of all the springs and where everything goes. In case you get mixed up, you could always reference that or do a video, whatever. Don't matter. The first spring you want to take off is this one on the right. Just pull on that loop over that pin and should come off or go flying, either way. The next spring is that one at the bottom. You want to take it off from the right side, right there. Boom. Push it out, and it should come off just like the other one. And that thing has that little wire hooked onto it, and the other end goes into a little hole. It just hooks in the hole at the bottom of the shoe. Next, you're going to want to take this little retainer circle thing out. So if you reach around from the back side, you can feel the back of that pin. Right there, hold that with your finger so it doesn't spin on you where you're trying to undo the little circle. You have to give it a quarter turn and it'll come off. Push in on the spring and a quarter turn. There's one on each side. Just hold it on the back with your finger while you turn the little circle thing. Whole video again. So hold it on the back with your finger. I'm just using regular pliers, pushing on the spring and quarter turn. And there's two circles and the spring in between. So see how it's rectangular and it only fits one way, and the other way it locks. The adjuster wheel, just take that out. Take your shoe out. And there's this little bar for the emergency brake. That's where the adjuster wheel goes. Just remove that bar that hooks up onto the emergency brake. Remove the left side spring. And this spring is the only thing that holds that little wire hook. So the spring goes through that guide that holds the wire. Right through that hole right there. And that just guides the cable. Take the cable out. And there's a little shoe guide. Undo the same hanger thing. Hold the back with your finger, quarter turn. Same deal on this side as the other side. So there's your emergency brake right here. You could unhook it from the cable down there. I just did it from the clip that holds it onto the shoe. Right there. So just spread the horseshoe clip. Just push it out and it should open up. And behind the horseshoe clip, there'll be this little like spacer or washer thing. Clean your these three little pad areas right there where the race shoe rides. There's three on each side. You could get it a lot cleaner if you wanted to. Take a wire wheel to it or something. And two bolts for the wheel cylinder. One right there and the other one. And you got your brake hose you're going to have to remove as well. So just hold the brake line with one hand and break the bolt loose for the wheel cylinder. Make sure your brake line isn't getting twisted up as you loosen it. You're going to want to take the two bolts out. They're going to be 10 millimeters. You're going to need to take your bleeder screw out as well for it to come out. Also a 10 millimeter. Get both your bolts out, and if you turn it, it should slide out pretty easily from the side once it's turned. Just like that. Boom. Grab your new wheel cylinder. Put them on the end. Make sure they're all the way in. One on each side. remove your bleeder screw so you can get it back in the same way you took it out. Give it that same little turn and it should go in pretty easy. And for this, you gotta make sure the pistons are all the way in on both sides before you tighten it, or else they'll get stuck. So before you tighten them all the way, just make sure you push it in with your finger. Make sure the both on both sides of the wheel cylinder. Make sure those pistons are all the way in. Hold them down, and then tighten your bolts. Compress the wheel cylinder from both sides and tighten your bolts up. Make sure you get this hose brake line back in perfectly straight, or else you'll cross thread it and you'll have a terrible day. Once you got it started by hand, you can start using your wrench. So we got this busted up stud that we're gonna replace as well. Just beat it out with a hammer. Check all your other studs. Might as well replace any damaged ones while you're here. Easiest time to beat it. Just give it one solid whack with the hammer. It should pop right out. Grab your new stud. Make sure they match. Thread pitch, same length, all that good stuff. This is one of a wheel stud installer. It's just a bearing, kind of like a thrust bearing, and on one side it takes a nut, the lug nut. Use some kind of grease, or I'm using anti-seize just to help not fuck up threads. And just get your lug nut and start threading it on there as far as it'll go. You're just gonna hit that sucker with the impact, 21 millimeter. Just keep going until it's all the way flush in the rear. Flush. Put your bleeder screw back in if you haven't already. Grab your shoe for the left side, and we'll start installing the emergency brake. Grab your horseshoe clip and that little thin washer spacer. Put it through the top hole of the shoe. Right there. And then you're going to want to put the washer first and then the horseshoe clip after. Once you got that on there, just squeeze the ends of the horseshoe and we'll clamp it together. Boom. And before you start hooking it up, we're just going to get a little bit of brake grease and put on all the contact points of the shoe. Now you're going to grab your pin, two of the little circle things, and the spring that hold the shoe on. It goes that way. That's the whole setup right there. Same deal going back in, just hold the pin with your finger so it doesn't spin on you. Compress the spring and give it a quarter turn once it's passed. Make sure your wheel cylinder is lined up where it needs to be right there. Stick the pin through the rear. Put the first little circle thing that direction right there. Then put the spring followed by the other circle thing. I fucked up right here. My knee was covering most of the shot, but you get the gist. Next, the spring. And the second circle. Just hold it all together till you get your pliers on it. Next to the brake shoe guide. Then the little steel cable next over that. Then your cable guide, which just sits in that hole, and once you get the spring, they'll hold it on there. Oh yeah, this is where I fucked up with the knee. Then put your spring through that little end right there. Put it through the guide on and through the shoe. That'll hold the guide, and just stretch the loop over that pin. Grab your emergency brake bar with the spring. Just set that into place until you get your second shoe on. Goes like that. Boom. Just slot right in there and just let it chill there. Grab your next pin with the two circles and the spring to hold up the second shoe. Line up your wheel cylinder and your emergency brake bar so they slide in their slots. Hold it with your finger, give it a quarter turn. Same deal. Before you put the adjusting wheel back, make sure you put a little bit of grease on the threads, especially if it's seized. Clean it out if it's seized. And these are reverse thread, by the way. wipe all the excess grease off. And put it back this direction. Just like that. And for this is what that cable hooks to. And on the rear side, it goes on that lower hole of the left shoe, and it just pivots right there. And that circle is where the hook right there that I'm about to hook up right there hooks onto that side. And the spring, the lower spring, hooks onto that same little loop. We just put the lower spring through that same loop. Make sure that the cable is in the guide that we installed earlier. And just push it into the hole on the other side of the shoe. And at this point, all that's left is that lower spring and the second green spring that goes from the top of the shoe to the center pin above the wheel cylinder. But my phone died as I was recording these last two springs. So just install those two springs, and that's pretty much it. I don't know what point I cut out, but red one there. There. The green one. There. There. New rotor or a fucking drum. Slap it on. Spin that wheel. Good.